Hello and warm welcome, dear audience, to what I call the Hollywood 2.0 Roundtable on New Generation Women. We are going to dive today into the entertainment industry with three wonderful, conscious, juicy, yummy, sexy, charming men who give hope, and with me, Janine van Zenos. So the topics we are going to face: the beauty of age, sexualization of women, soul messaging in an electronic environment of likes and of a me, my selfie, and I culture. I love that expression. So these are the big topics we are chewing on and more with my guests from the Hollywood Hills, actor, teacher, and coach Kirk Baltz. From London, actor, acting, and LifeWorks practitioner Alex Delamare. And from Lisbon, born in Los Angeles, dancer, choreographer, international instructor, and music writer and producer who worked for Motown and is a former sound designer with a degree in criminal law, Tony Stone. Hello and warm welcome. I followed your classes, and they are always juicy and very fun and joyful. And I think that's a kind of a soul message that you have in the class. Everybody, I remember I had a week of a lot of stuff that happened. I was almost depressed when I came to your class. And I know that one of my girlfriends had the same. And we went on that weekend to your class, and it was gone. It was completely gone. It shifted me, and I was in a very different state. So the depth of joy and soulfulness is what you bring in your art. How do you also in the present moment, being detached from all the women who adore you? I mean, they're just like hanging on to you and wanting to have their selfies, and you are always on the way, you're always on the run in the plane. Do you manage to detach yourself and get, have those quiet, calm, silent moments?
Yeah, you have to. When you're dealing with, close to 100,000 people a year on a regular for however long, yeah, you have to be able to say, okay, this is, I got to shut off. I got to turn the light switch off. But I have to say, even like what you described when you came in and you were going through what you were going through, you came to the class, you left a different person. Those are even when I'm around other people, especially in the classroom, especially on the stage, it gives me that time to go, because when I enter my class, it's literally about, I want you to come through that door and just forget. I want to get you to forget everything that's happening in your day. Everything, whatever was happening to you and affecting you before you hit that threshold, I want that all to just drift away and drift right into the message of the choreography, the song, the mood, everything that will just sweep you away. And when you cross that threshold to leave, you crossed it being just even a different person. It doesn't necessarily have to be better, just has to be just a different approach. And so when I'm in that room and I'm able to, like, for example, I just did a major choreography to a Justin Timberlake song called Say Something. Mm-hmm. And literally this choreography was about people stepping up. You see something, you say something. Don't just sit back and sit back in the cut, ignore what's, literally basically smacking you in the face because you don't want to get involved, because you don't really want to, let it affect you. No, stand up, be like the guys are saying, be present, be in that moment, say something, do something, be there for whoever, whenever. And that allows me to then go into a space where I'm able to because when I come home from something, I literally don't leave my house for 48 hours. That's like a regular. I do not leave my house. No one knocks on my door except for maybe some delivery, some food. That's about it. But I do not leave my house for 48 hours. And that's for me. That's literally just
Yes. Because I was thinking, I mean, how do you have such a high energy when you come into the class, and you hold the energy, you hold the space for everybody, and holding that takes a lot of energy. sometimes to be a practitioner or facilitator is so much more about holding the space and holding good energy. And you bring in a lot of, I mean, you guys must have that too, Alex and Kirk. You bring in a lot of energy, even if you don't say a lot. I mean, Tony has the music. I do it with my heart messaging when I'm in the business environment. And I do have a group, I'm on stage. And it is a lot of energy to hold the space of my heart. And sometimes just, I'm not preparing so much the content, but more tuning into the audience or tuning into the people. Do you prepare, Tony? Like, do you prepare in the plane? Do you prepare your choreographers also tuning into the soul of people? Is it something you do consciously, or does it come just easily to you without thinking?
It never comes without thinking, without a an actual come to moment. When you get to a certain level, it has to be that way. You can't just wing it. And people appreciate the fact that you're not winging it anymore, and that's what takes you to a different level. But I do come in extremely prepared. But when I come in, like for example, I refuse to know how many people are going to be in a room. There's a lot of choreographers that when they're teaching these international events, it's like, okay, am I going to have 100? Am I going to have 1,000? You know what? You're supposed to come in that room and teach 2 and dance with 2 the same way you would with 1,000. I refuse to know numbers. I could care less, because I don't want it to have some kind of residual effect on me, on what I want to deliver. Don't want it to even come into the space.
I totally get that. And that's so much relating to what you guys said. In that present moment, we have trained in a really great course to not prepare for anything. And when it's the moment, you speak. And it's so scary because there's no concept. And I would do it in my online courses, and I'm very good doing it with board of directors. Sometimes I don't even know the name, and that's really scary. I come in and I'm tuning into the presence, and so much comes through that. There's a stream of thoughts. And then they say to me, you're very analytical. And I think I'm everything but analytical. But because the intuitive or the thought of streams, the intuitive flow or whatever comes, and for me, it's like the heart space, it is so much more intelligent than I could ever be. And I made it my, rule, but it was a lot of working on myself, and also protecting that, because like with you, they always want to give you some kind of, box where you fit in. Sometimes do this and do that. And it takes a lot of standing up for yourself. Speak up, that yes, to say it, speaking up for yourself, standing up, putting boundaries and say, this is how I do it. And otherwise I'm not doing it. Kirk, is that your experience too in Los Angeles, where people feel like they have a certain kind of way how they show up, where it's almost like glamorous and being more silent, quiet, and heartfelt? Is that harder for you in Los Angeles, or is that easier for you?
I don't think it, I think it first starts with, where am I? Where am I in this moment? Where am I today? Where am I with what's going on in my life? I mean, Alex is talking about what's going on around me. I have 2 kids. I have a 16 and a 19-year-old. And culturally, I'm always being hit with things that are going on with them, lifestyle-wise. And, I'm intrigued by, in the title of your show and what you're doing, there's the word selfie. I would go back to what Alex was talking about, which is the root of my training as an actor and the work I do with everyone, and writers, directors, actors, and the work I do with myself. Again, it is, how do I get away from self? So it's going to be with, who am I with? What am I getting from who I'm with? I don't know. We were just talking about Lisbon and Stockholm, and then being with you guys when I'm there in Munich. There are different people everywhere. I know filmmakers and writers, directors, showrunners here in Los Angeles that are some of the most social conscious people I've ever met. And I also think that everything is accumulative, and what we have going on in Hollywood is more global than just in Hollywood. There are independent filmmakers here that are very message conscious, social justice driven with what they're putting out. So I did love what Tony said in terms of, he doesn't really want to know how many people are going to be in a room. I have an idea. I usually have a play or a material or something I'm going to be working with. But I've done it long enough now to be fully aware that I have no idea what's going to happen in that 1 day, 4 day, week-long workshop I'm getting ready to do. Again, my environment, the people I'm with, the space around me, what's going on in the room, time, place, that's going to dictate what happens in that space as we go through the time together.
Yeah.
But my head is always fucking trying to figure everything
out. And that's kind of, yes, I know. That's like a day job sometimes. Sometimes, you know, I do my practice and then I'm so exhausted in the evening that I need to have a glass of wine, just trying to not be so fucked up by my mind. And I think, I'm done with it, you know.
But I love that though. I can so connect with that and what Kirk mentioned there, because I mean, it forces you to be present. Mm-hmm. Whether you want to or not, it forces you to be in that moment in order to click, in order to make it happen, in order to make it resound.
And then it gives you complete and total freedom.
Absolutely.
And it takes you to places that you never even imagined you would end up. And then you realize this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And what's going on right now is exactly what's supposed to be going on.
You realize it's a journey that's not individual. It's corporate, if you like, because you start off with an idea of where you want to go. And then you end up somewhere else, which is somewhere that you never imagined, which is absolutely, as you say, fantastic.
Yeah.
I once had a wonderful experience, and that taught me a lot. And I talked with a common friend of us about this, and I said I was never able to reach it again. I was in Havana, and I was able to teach with the theater dancers. I just bumped into it. I just happened to be there at the right time. And we started in the morning really early, which was hard for me, dancing in the morning. But they had such a wonderful way,
Not a fan of dancing in the morning.
No, me neither, but it was 7 a.m. And this was so good that I said, don't message Janine, just get up, just don't think about it. So there was a band, almost like Buena Vista Social Club. They were really elderly, doing this chanting in the morning before we started and having that as a warm-up. It was awesome. So they were building, and there came this dance director from Mexico for this workshop for the dancers. And the atmosphere was so spooky, awesome, and wonderful that by building that up, in the end, I was in a space, and I'm quite injured, so I cannot do everything that other dancers can, so I always have to watch it and be mindful about it. But there was this moment I was completely free of all what happened. And I would do things that I would never be able to do, jumps and everything that with the condition I am normally in, I would never even be close to be able to do that. And that gave me this sense of, yes, if you are really out of yourself and out of your mind and out of your mind fuck and completely surrender to that, it's such a glory. And I love that. How did you experience it, Alex? Because you're smiling. You must have experienced those juicy moments too.
Well, yes, I did a show in London called Billy Elliot. And
I saw you. You were brilliant. I love that show. I absolutely love that show.
that little thing, yeah.
Yeah, that little thing. And it was a very humbling experience because you're working with kids who are, 10 to 12 years old, and they are the lead in a West End show, and they can dance, they can tap, they can jazz, they can acro, they can sing, they can act. And you're there thinking, okay, well, I've been in the business over 30 years, and this guy is the lead in this West End show. And you go, oh, all right, okay. But the thing that made me laugh was the fact that I got a part playing Mr. Braithwaite, and I had to learn to do the splits at 44. And that was the challenge that I was set by the choreographer. So he gave me the part and said, thing is, Alex, I want you to get down into splits. And I went, okay. So the first battle was in the mind, because you go, well, 44, am I a bit too old to do that? But actually, you win the battle in the mind, and then the body just follows. That's the way I find it works, really. So it's the battles in the mind that you have to fight so that you can convince your body that actually you're not too old. And it's one of the things I'm practicing again to get back down into splits, just to wow them on the salsa dance floor.
Okay, we lost Kirk. I don't know where he is. Yeah, there he is back. Luckily. That's always the nerve-wracking part, that the technique is going to stay and that you're all going to have strong internet connection, guys. What is about, the arts? Arts is so to me, arts has a very special connection to the soul if you compare it to the business world and to politics or any kind of other, or the healing business is also very connected to the soul. But also being connected and open-hearted can come with vulnerability and insecurity at times. And when you go into those and dive into those and you allow them, it can again come into a great piece of art. Do you guys struggle with that too, with insecurity at times, vulnerability, thinking that was really shit what I did, and then, you know, questioning yourself, but then coming up with something that was even stronger than before, Kirk?
Never.
Yeah.
Let's share something. Let's share.
I have no idea what you're even talking
I
about.
thought so. I thought so. That's why I was picking. That's why I was picking you first, because I thought so. Like you said, no, never, never. But because I invited you to say, let's continue the series Conscious Man with Hope. And part of being conscious, I mean, I've heard from Brené Brown. I don't know if you know her. She's just an awesome researcher, and she has been well known for her TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability. If you haven't seen it, it is so good. And she received the most clicks with 41 million clicks. So there is a need, or there is a curiosity, let's say this way, of vulnerability. And when I talk with teams, what they want to have in their leaders is vulnerability. So I think like, wow, we have Trump right now, we have other politicians, but we do not really have the vulnerable, the human leaders or influencers who are coming forward. So and men are very afraid, I heard so, that's the underlying unconscious thought what's going on, to show weakness. And I see this very often. So Kirk, when we come back to you, before I go to Tony and Alex, you're not going to be the only one I'm asking. Weakness, vulnerability, insecurity, when does it come up for you?
I would not lump the three of those together at all, personally. I think weakness is a judgment. I think it's an interpretation. I think I'm a huge Brené Brown fan. I've seen her talks, and I just think she's wonderful, and she has almost this street savvy along with this clinical approach to perspective, and then how she communicates. But you know, so much of it for me is it's what we've been talking about. I mean, Alex was talking about it. We're all talking about things come up, we have what's in our minds, we have what's going on, and I can easily look, when I said never, I mean, it would really be never not. It is constantly there. Mm-hmm. The self-doubt, am I making a mistake? What if I make a fool of myself? What if it's not right? What if it's wrong? What if it's no good? I mean, I worked hard years and years and years ago just to try and remove, you know, good, bad, right, wrong from my vocabulary, you know, and that's like, you know, I turned 60 in a couple of weeks, and I'm still dealing with that, you know. So
you don't look a day over 30.
Thank you. You can stay in the podcast, Alex.
Exactly. We won't click them out now.
So glad you joined us today.
Yeah, that was actually my line, Alex. You took my line. That would have been my line, but you know.
Well, she might
my point is,
Tony, on the other hand, looks about 80.
It's not going to go anywhere, you know, these mindsets and these beliefs. And so what it starts to turn into for me is, what do I do with it? How do I create with it? How do I use it so I'm not a slave to it? Mm-hmm. I've been doing this exercise lately that I come back around to every couple of years, and I have folks write a letter to somebody you have an unresolved issue with. They write the letter, then they step into the person who's received the letter, and they become them, having just read it, and they write the letter back to you. Mm-hmm. And every time across the board, the letter that's more powerful and that hits us more is the letter that we get back.
Yes.
And everybody thinks, like Alex was speaking about, everybody thinks that, oh, well, it has to do with outside. What you realize is that person is representational of an aspect within myself.
Absolutely.
And then bang, the good, bad is gone. It's there. It's not even evil. It's not even dark. It's not wrong. It's there. And so then what do I do with that? And that's a part of what's so exciting to me right now about where we are in terms of masculinity, femininity, the Me Too movement. where older white dudes like myself are all of a sudden sitting in the middle of this, and it's awakening. It's incredibly exciting, and it's scary as fuck.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden we're being asked to look at things in a different way and talk about step in other people's shoes. So it's exciting to me, and that I think it is a tremendously empowering place to be creative from, because it involves opposites, it involves polarities, it involves being outside my comfort zone. And I think that's where art comes from, and that's ultimately what art is for.
Well, that's what I think is the beauty of art, because if you go into, for instance, the business world where I do, make my paychecks, that's the out of the comfort zone is just so not there. It is so far away from where the art is. I think in the arts, you have to always step out of your comfort zone to really touch something that is deeper than what you think was beyond your control. Tony, you always look like really secure, very much, full of joy, full of energy, full of positive attitude. Now, I always wondered, where are your insecure moments? Do you have any?
Oh, plenty, please. Let me say this. Let's start with the beginning of my dance career. I mean, I started dancing. I started when I was 34 years old. So, you're going to be questioning everything from that point forward. Am I going to be able to remain relevant? Is this choreography good? Is this song stupid? Is anybody going to question this movement? Are they going to see it as dated? Oh, it's a never-ending situation. I can't even begin to tell you how many choreographies I've started and thrown out, like almost 5 minutes before class, and now go in like panic mode to try and figure out, okay, oh my God, I really got to come up with something, majestic in a matter of 2 minutes. Oh, it's never ending. And again, it's the one thing that keeps me not looking 62, because it just forces you to jump out of that comfort zone, jump out of that skin and into another situation that literally electrifies you more than if you suck your finger in the socket.
Yes, I totally get that. Alex, what about you?
Well, that's an interesting dilemma, isn't it? Because the thing about being an actor is that you are judged on who you are, not necessarily on your skill set. So as soon as you walk through the door, someone has already made a decision about you. And the sort of epiphany I came to was that it's not about what they can do for you, it's about what you can do for them. And that I found was a very empowering thought to take into auditions. But as Kirk says, it's judgment of self and others is a very limiting occupation, and it undermines you constantly. And as a psychophysical being, by that I mean that your mind and your body are interconnected completely. So your body is giving as much information as your brain is to the person that you're in front of. And I think if you can interrupt that signal at some point and just look at yourself, then you can, in an instant, just change your physicality and your mind will follow. And that was a sort of a joyful thing to find, because even in your darkest moments, when you look at your physicality, if you change your physicality and suddenly you bring something that is more positive to your body, then your mind will follow. And that's exactly, by the sounds of things, exactly what Tony does when he's dancing. He gets people to change their physicality into his world. And as soon as he does that, their mindset changes as well.
Yeah, that's very true. I sometimes thought on those big mirrors that you have in the dance class, and of course, as a woman, we are so much about body and image and body shame and all that stuff. Women are constantly judging themselves, lots of them. So I said once to a dance choreographer, I said, can you please pin on the mirror, how would I feel today if I don't judge myself? Because I really do love that sentence. I would come into the classroom sometimes and would come with a sentence, say, how would I feel today if I wouldn't judge myself at all? And then after 5 minutes, I catch myself again and say, gosh, shit, I did it again. I'm judging myself again. It's a constant reminder. We are so conditioned and used to judge our bodies, seeing ourselves in the mirror.
Absolutely.
And
I find it one of the things that I would be very interested in hearing is from the guy's perspective of acting and directing, because Ginny, as you well know, in the dance world, I mean, that judgment, it's as much as you would adore for it to be non-existent and to just not be so peripherally up in your face.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just dancing right next to someone, you're constantly judging yourself going, am I as good as her? Oh my God, she's kicking butt. And oh my God, this one back here is just kicking all kinds of ass. I don't want to be in this group. Oh, do not call on me to come up to the front and demonstrate. Did he walk by me? Oh my, so it's just like so I would like to know how that is, you know, from the acting and directing perspective, if it's so ever present as it is in the dance world.
I think it's in life. I mean, I took a yoga class a couple months ago, and there was a woman practicing next to me who was like unbelievable. And I left the class, we're sitting out and we're chatting a little bit. And I go, I have to tell you, I was very intimidated. These were my words, and I couldn't believe it fell out of my mouth. Right? I couldn't believe I wasn't conscious of it. And what fell out of my mouth was, I was very intimidated practicing next to you. And I'm smiling and being light and being conversational. And her response was, oh my God, I'm sorry. I certainly did not mean to intimidate. Right? So it was like my choice.
The thing about that is, the thing about that, Kirk, is you need a before and after. Otherwise, you can't see the journey.
Mm. How did you feel? What's for you, Alex? Thank you so much for sharing, Kirk. What's for you, Alex?
Well, it's interesting because our mutual friend Nuncio does choreography. And whenever I go to Munich, I always like to try and do one or two of his classes. And, you know, being slightly older and probably less fit than the other two guys, I struggle sometimes to do the choreography that he sets. But being a kinesthetic, someone who experiences life through feelings first, I sort of go for the essence of what it is that he's trying to feel through the dance. And then I will give my own interpretation to it. And then it sort of becomes about, okay, well, that's what I'm bringing to it. And does it really matter whether I'm doing it exactly the same or as good as someone else? Because actually I'm doing what I'm doing, which is feeding off what Nuncio's giving as accurately as I can. Okay. You know, within the constraints of injuries and, you know, the fact that I've got an old body.
Sure. Yes. You know, old body, you know her. She's a wonderful, awesome dancer. She went now to Los Angeles, and she was looking as hot as you can look as a woman. You know, she has this long legs, this beautiful body, and she looked really wonderfully dressed. We had a choreography with one of our common friends, with Nuncio, and it was a sexy one. I looked as shitty as I could at that day. I didn't even have my own dance clothes, which is awful if you have, you know, foreign clothes on. So I had I looked like a bag of bones. And I was thinking, was very positive in the beginning. I was thinking, standing next to her, oh, I'm going to choose to stand next to her. I'm going to just say, it's all in your mind, Janine. You are going to present yourself as sexy as hell and juicy, even if you don't look like it. So you just, you know, present it. And the minute the music starts, 5 seconds, I thought, oh no hell with it. That's done. I'm done. It was just, and I went then to Nuncio and said to him, I'm too old for that shit. And he said, no, I love looking at you. I said, no, you're pretending nice. I think there is a limit. And it's a very good way also to talk about sexualization of women. I had a really crisis when I turned 50 in dancing, and I come from salsa, so that dancing hot all the time is something, and that's a wave, that's a timeline. And then sexy choreography came so much, you know, so everything needs to be sexy. And then when you are in a certain kind of age, it doesn't have to be non-sexy, but it has a different quality. And I really had to find myself, how can I be sensual and sexy in my age without looking ridiculous or competing with the 19-year-old ones. When it comes to the whole sexualization of women, starting with you, Tony, because you have so many beautiful, juicy dancers in your class, if some people, some young women go to Los Angeles, you see it on Facebook, you see it on social media and Instagram, they turn immediately into a different woman. And I think, oh, hell no, don't leave your art, you know, don't leave your soul. Don't become that mask again with his big boobs and big lips and everything is like different because it's Hollywood. How do you see this from a man's perspective? Before I ask Alex and Kirk.
I'll tell you, it's tough. Okay, it's really tough because, you know, unless you're the person sitting, you know, in that director's seat, you know, unless you're the artist, you don't have a hell of a lot of say so in the matter. And I do my best. I do my darndest to let people know, let dancers know, especially women, when they're going to LA and New York City, you're jumping into the Pacific Ocean. You have left the pond. The competition is insurmountable. It is no joke. As a result of that, when you get there, it's you know, if you're standing next to someone that or 10 people that are equally as talented as you, I've done this a million times in auditions where I've gone in that room and I have literally just busted out the choreo, just nailed it, knew I had the gig. This is mine. I own this. And my number never got called. I was like, wait, what the hell just happened? You know, it's, and like, for example, when I came to London, I auditioned for, what's the big show with all the beating and sticks and
Stomp.
Yes, Stomp.
I was auditioning for the Stomp show, came in, nailed it, owned it, knew it was mine. The AD came up to me and said, "Why, you're phenomenal. We know we're going to see good things out of you." I knew at that point when that line came out, it wasn't me. And so I was like, well, so are you saying that am I swing? Am I, you know, we're going to keep you in mind. You know how this business works. We saw your resume. We know who you are. We already have our black guy. It's the way it is. You know, there's been plenty of jobs that I've been on. I won't name the artist because it really has nothing to do with the artist, but all of a sudden it just gets slammed on them. But plenty of times when I've been in there and I've been the choreographer and I've been directed, hey, we need 2 Asians, we need 1 black girl, we need 3 blondes, we need 1 brunette. That's the way it is. That is literally the way it is. Doesn't matter how great you dance next to this person, if they have the juxtaposition of the skill, they're going to get the gig because that position calls for them at that moment, which is another reason why I tell women, especially women, look, here's the deal. Don't hate on. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Because at that moment, it's just their moment. Your moment could be another moment, but just let them have their moment. Keep on sticking it out, keep on plugging it out, keep doing what you need to do, and that moment will come.
Now, I would love to hear from your perspective, because I got so annoyed lately. The last years, the whole music video industry has become so sexualized. If you, I don't know if you know the documentary, it has been an award-winning documentary from Jennifer Siebel-Newton, who talked about misrepresentation. And it's all about how marketing and the music video industry and the film industry is using, you know, the body of a woman. And I was like, it gets so boring. It's after a while so boring. It's so foreseeable. And also one very famous artist, and she's on Netflix. And I thought, wow, when she's interviewed backstage, I adore her. But seeing her on stage is always the same moves. It's always the same booty. It's always the same hot pants. And I literally get bored by it, because when I see a flamenco show, and Tony, I talked about it with you, these flamenco dancers of Carmen Mota, and they just closed the group, unfortunately. They're, to me, so diverse and erotic, sensual, sexual, and expressive, and passionate, and dramatic, everything. It's a whole potpourri of art. And I literally get bored of what is happening the last years. It's all down to booty, to boobs, to hot pants. And it's just annoying me after a while. How do you see this, guys? Alex?
It's very interesting, because harking back to something I think Kirk said, Anthony, for me, it's not about form, it's about content. And if you just have form, it's vacuous. You need content. And however you achieve that, if you have one without the other, it's just meaningless for me. And yeah, sure, you put a pretty lady in a sexy outfit, then, you know, for a moment you're going to go, oh, there's a pretty lady in a sexy outfit. But if there's no content, if there's nothing that says there's something more, if that that reading of that energy isn't there, then you go,
Yes.
okay, well, flick it over, go and watch something else. And as you said, when you see a flamenco dancer, you're seeing a beautiful dress, you're seeing sophistication, you're seeing elegance, you're seeing something more than just the form. You're seeing something behind the form. And I think that's the important thing. And, you know, even as a male actor, that's what you try and strive for. You want content, you just don't want form. And that's the difference between someone taking maybe Tony's choreography and making their own, because suddenly they fill the form, which is the choreography, with content. And then suddenly that's when you go, oh, yeah, I really like that dancer. Mm-hmm. And it's the same with Kirk when he's teaching camera acting. You know, if someone is just going through the motions, then that's vacuous unless they have something going on behind the eyes, because you need to have content. And that for me is fundamental.
I really like what you. Yes, please, Tony.
Because I couldn't agree more with what he's saying.
Yes, me too.
Because it's the same thing. Even if that's what it calls for, even if the choreographer gets the call sheet that says this is what we need to find, this is what the artist wants, this is what the record label is looking for. The people that make it to our finals are exactly those people that fill those forms with enormous content. That is our way of at least saying, I see you. Mm-hmm. I recognize you. I enjoy what you're bringing to the table. You are bringing a whole lot more than the sexuality than this rap video is going to call for. I see you. Hang in there. Do you. I do see you. I may not be able to choose you right now because of this ridiculous piece of shit video that we had to put out, but I see you.
Kirk, how do you, when you have a woman who's coming in, maybe she's insecure, a very beautiful woman, and everybody would say, oh, she's an actress because she looks so beautiful, or, you know, how do you work with a woman who has a beautiful shell, but then has something very wonderful and special inside to bring that outside and make that her strength, her anchor, without getting distracted from her own, you know, her beauty?
The exact same way I would work with a man if he had that going on. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that it's shining a light on it. It's awareness and acceptance of it. I mean, I love just the formula of awareness, acceptance, and action. Mm-hmm. Being aware of something. Am I really willing to accept it? And then what are the actions that I'm going to take to shift it? I think that the interesting part of this what you're kind of zeroing in on is it's about what am I gravitating towards, and I love the use of the word content, you know, and I think that, you know, you when Alex was talking about Tony, you would take a dance of Tony's and it's like, yeah, it's the form and the structure and the shell, and then how do I take that container and fill it up with me? Mm-hmm. You know, it's not about being Tony. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not going to be able to, the second I think I'm Tony and I'm doing Tony's dance, you got to take me to Bellevue. It's not, it's, you know, it's me endowing that. And that's where the freedom comes into place. That's where the experience of like, oh my God, I can do this. Mm-hmm. My daughter just got back from doing a 2-week program at RADA in London, mm-hmm. and she's 16. She's going to turn 17 in November. And she found one monologue. She did a piece there, and then we were struggling for this other one. And I'm looking at my books, and there's a play called Talk Radio that Eric Bogosian did in New York in the 80s, late 80s. I grabbed it, pulled it off the shelf. Lulu opened it up, found a monologue from one of the callers in on the radio show. She ran it, and bang, we found the monologue. And we sat there and we both went, is that it? And we're like, should we look more? And in my head is, this should be harder. I should be reading like 14 plays and trying to find, and it was it. It was right there. It was it. And then my daughter goes, my wife's from Brooklyn. And so my daughter goes, let me do it with a dialect. Let me do it with a Brooklyn accent. She does it. And it was awesome. It was great. Then my wife comes in and goes, no. They say no dialects. You can't do dialects. And it made perfect sense. So it was again about Lulu just being Lulu in this piece and her filling that up and trusting that that is enough. So to answer your question, Janine, a woman walks in who has a shell that's stunning, that's beautiful, that's attractive, but there's an insecurity going on. I don't know that they have a whole lot to do with one another, to be honest with you. I mean, they may not, and that's her makeup, and I'm not a therapist. That's for her to kind of figure out and what to do with. But it's the release. It's the letting go of what else is going on inside. You know, what's the contrary action I need to take? You know, am I attached to my insecurity, my self-doubt? You talk about Brene Brown. It's okay, I'm going to take the free fall. I'm going to take a risk. Doesn't matter if I fail. What matters is that I'm moving in a direction I'm not accustomed to. You know.
I think what I do like so much about Brené Brown and Elizabeth Gilbert is they both, to me, are wonderful role models because of their honesty and their humor and their charm. To not take yourself so serious, I think that's really great. And also to be so honest and such storytellers. And when you know, I love also to see that vulnerability part, that graceful part, and that also comes with knowing yourself, know thyself. That takes many years, and here comes the experience and the wisdom and the grace and the beauty of age that I call also an art. If you're young in your 20s, you have all this other and this curiosity and this openness, and but there comes the beauty of age with wisdom and with grace. And I think this is so important in this age now where we have social media, where things come easily into a superficial mode, where it's all about, you know, in order to, I write a book in order to get more likes. I do this in order to get this. And I love to write a book because I do think I have something to say at that moment, or I do this because there's a passion for that. So I think it's very important that we balance it out and we bring the beauty of age forward. Now, we are all plus 40, I guess. So talking about this as the last point, when it comes again from a man's perspective, seeing women just such as Judi Dench or Hal Mirren or who else, Glenn Close. I just saw Hollywood Roundtable. It was actually Tony I wanted to interview, and he got this, he misunderstood. He thought, I'm going to do Hollywood Roundtable. So it was him who made, you know, the roundtable coming together because I wanted just to interview him. But we agreed that we so much love Hollywood Roundtable because of the honesty. It felt so much more real than what you normally see from actors and directors when they're in one of those shows, you know, where they show off. It's just this honesty and this endurance and this vulnerability and people speaking up. And I think that can only come with a certain kind of age, and there is a beauty to it. How do you see it, Tony?
I think I see it coming with age for sure, no doubt about it. And I also think I see it coming with experience. You know, you get to a certain point and you might hit your experience faster than someone else. But through gaining that experience, you gain the knowledge, you gain the wisdom of that at that moment, where, you know, others gain it definitely through the ages, through the years. But yeah, because of having either one of those allows you to be able to say openly, honestly, and to the point, because you know yourself, you know what you're talking about, you've reached a certain level where you're like, you know what, I know what the fuck I'm talking about, so I'm just gonna say it as it is. And you lay it right out, you lay it on the line, you put it down there.
It's funny how we care.
Might not be yours.
It's funny how we care less when we get older.
True.
Yeah, and I want to know it from a man's perspective. I mean, we women, we do care. I mean, you know, when I talk with women in my age, we do see things are going away, and you are confronted. This is changing, and I see my mom. She was such a beauty in her 40s and 50s, and she's now 81. And she has aged. I mean, I cannot say she still can be very beautiful from inside, but she has aged, and it is difficult for women. And then when I think about the entertainment industry, that must be hard. How do you see that? Do you have, as a man, is it as confronting for you as for women? Alex?
I think that's the fundamental question then is, do I believe I've grown up? And I think the answer to that question is probably no, because in my head, I'm still in my 20s. And I think it's almost hanging on to that perspective that keeps you younger. I mean, I know I don't look 58. I know that I look probably about 57. But but the thing about
10 years off of there, buddy.
But the thing about it is, when you get to that stage, you just realize actually, the more congruent you are, the more you accept who you are in the moment, the more comfortable you are with yourself in the moment, the younger you look, because there's less conflict. And, if you can accept who you are, where you are, and what you are at any given moment, then guess what? You're going to look 10, 15 years younger. And, when I'm doing my one-to-one work, I always say it's the quickest way to get a facelift is to come and have a session with me, because by the time you finish, everyone looks 10 or 15 years younger, because you're just getting rid of stuff that you don't need anymore.
I totally believe that. People say you look very young, and I always say, because I work through my stuff. I mean, I had stuff going on in my life that wasn't as easy as as you would love it to be, and same with you. But I do work through my stuff, and I do cry it out, and I do work it through, and it doesn't get stuck in my face. I'm totally convinced about that. If you don't have that as a heavy burden in your life, then there is a different spirit, and the heaviness is gone. How is it for you?
Can I add to that? Because of the female aspect that I'm always exposed to with the job that I do. Of course, I have so many women that come into my classes that are like, "I'm too old to do this." Oh, Tony, I can't do this. I'm just too old to do this. Or the other thing is just, my birthday's coming up, and I can't believe I'm turning 30, or I can't. It's the big 4-0. If you didn't fall into that trap, if ladies refuse to fall into that trap, they would look so much younger. It's the angst of getting to that makes you look 10 years more than you did just the day before you started suffering that angst.
Yes. No, I do understand that, but I did have to work through that, because now in the dance studio that we all know in Munich, I'm the granny there. I'm one of the oldest. And that's really scary. I mean, now the ones who were watching me when they were 4 are now the ones who are going to Los Angeles because they're so good. It is strange. It's just strange. And they're doing all the jumps that you cannot do anymore. So I really needed to work on myself and say, where's your anchor? Where is your special Janine when you dance? And what is the joy of that? And if you have some expectations. So it needed to come down to this. And then peeking into flamenco, into tango, into salsa, and picking stuff out there and bring it together into this beauty of age that I say. And there's this gracefulness and wisdom. And of course, in a body. And when you have a body that is aging, you cannot run away from that. That's just fact. But how can I carry my body in a graceful way? How can I stand out in my way and owning my place? I found it very brave, and I almost wanted to leave. And I know that I said to one of the dance teachers, I said, oh gosh, no, I cannot do it anymore. But then there comes this light, and suddenly, and this is what I'm pointing to, all that energy from within comes. And this is something that is like a wave that suddenly comes from within and bursts forward. And you feel like, yeah, I still have it. It's still there. But it's not something you're pretending or performing. It's a very deep quality from within. And this is what I love so much about it. Kirk, did you this experience? You're turning also a nice number. Do you also experience it sometimes?
Wow,
you can say it.
Yeah,
you can
it's
say.
okay. I think we've all said it.
Nice
So.
number.
I know in Los Angeles, people don't say their age, and I heck with it. I'm 52. I don't care saying that. So I was very mindful about this. But turning 60, do you have sometimes this rush of energy coming from within, where you feel that strength and that power that has nothing to do with your body?
Yeah, and this is what I mean by it's accumulative. Where am I? How did I take care of myself yesterday? What did I do yesterday? Was it stuff that pulled me down? Was it stuff that uplifted me? That's going to be a part of how I wake up today and engage today. As we kind of chat about all this, I think it's for me, there's a big difference between being childish and being childlike.
Yes,
and I want to continue to move into being childlike.
Amen.
I think the childish The childish is rooted in expectations. It's rooted in resentment. It's rooted in past. It's rooted in what do others think of me? How am I perceived? The me thing. Whereas childlike is just getting lost in playing with whatever it is I'm engaged in, whether it's, you know, how do I, you know, turn this mess that I'm in the middle of into something that excites me.
I
You
think
know?
this
Well,
is something that
can I just add to that, Ginny?
Yes.
I absolutely agree with you, Kirk. And
I knew that.
one of the things that I think is absolutely crucial for having a happy life is to be in touch with your inner child.
Yes.
And that energy,
Critical.
that energy coming from periphery to center, which is the childlike response to energy, things come into you and you respond to it. That childlike energy is what you strive for as an actor to in performance, is to have that child energy, which is periphery to center. So you respond honestly in the moment. And then you have another energy center, which is the parent, which is point to point, which is, you know, I need to do this so I achieve that. And then you have the adult energy, which is centered to periphery. That's you sending yourself out into the space. And it's the combination of those three that's very important. But for me, the fundamental energy is periphery to center, because that's just the most enjoyable. That's when you discover life moment by moment. And as an actor and a professional and a performer, you want to have that energy.
I absolutely agree. I think it's a curiosity and the openness for the journey. Sometimes, you know, if you just step back from the craziness of the world and you just imagine that you would see, you know, life through this child energy and child eyes, or this happy soul energy, it has a total different quality to it. And just a reminder. And I also want to say this, being childlike and having that deep, honest, pure joy, that is really attractive. I think that is very attractive for men and for women alike. Something that we women can learn from you guys, because somehow when you turn older, or, you know, you go in your best age, you really go automatically into more children, more childlike behaviors. Women don't do this so often. I haven't seen that. I think in a dancing world, it comes just with the dance. It keeps people younger. And I do have this big inner child. And at the same time, I do also have to take care of that inner child when there is anger, when there is sadness, when there is whatever, to let that out and don't stuff it away. And we are in such a world where everything needs to be quickly fixed, or it's superficial. But having those moments, or Prozac, having those moments of honesty and sadness is so important, that the inner child can thrive again a few days later. And I do embrace that, and I don't feel sorry for that anymore. I really do embrace, today I'm really sad. And when my partner and I work and prepare sometimes, and I do love the honesty with him also as a conscious man, he would just come up and say, Janine, today I'm extremely sad. So tears would run around down his face. And I said, can I do anything? I said, no, just accept me as I am at the moment. And this is this minute and the moment. And the next day, the next moment, he's totally joyful. And I think the motion of it and not getting stuck is so important. And for you guys, you almost look as if this is the most natural thing, saying this, you know, you're just juggling with big words and big wisdom. But I think to a lot of people, this is kind of such insightful, and again, a story that helps other people to move forward. Because I do believe, and this is why I do this channel and want to make it an edutainment channel with stories and talks and interviews, I do believe that we walk each other home, and that the stories, the honesty of other people just help me again to move a step further. And then another story that Alex might have shared helps you, Tony, again to move in your feel, you know, more alive and vivid into what you do. So Tony, just to, you haven't spoken about the childlike, and you started with it to complete the talk show. You started with, you have never grown up. So this should be your moment, you know, the end of the moment, the firework for you. I never grew up, and I like it, and become now wrapping it up at the end of the circle, coming back to the inner child.
Yeah,
we can't really see, but he's wearing shorts. His old school shorts.
Yes.
I can tell.
Wait, let me get out of the glare.
Yes.
Yeah, you couldn't be more accurate, my friend. Could not be more.
Just show them. Just stand up, Tony. Just show them.
Yeah, you think he's kidding? Yeah.
No, he's not kidding. Yeah,
Check it
here you go.
out.
But they are very cool. You know, they are not really childlike. They're very cool.
Well,
I didn't see them. But it looked like he had something stuffed down the front anyway.
Okay.
Yes, but yeah, no, it's as far as I'm concerned, it's everything. In fact, when I'm doing a lot of speaking engagements for workshops and things of that sort, I tell people the anchor of my career, literally the anchor of my career, is three letters, FUN. If I'm not having fun, I don't care. I don't care about it. I'm done with it. I want to go somewhere else. I want to be somewhere else as fast as I can get to where I can have fun. Because once those three letters kick in, I couldn't be more engaged. I've come to realize, you know, when I worked for that law firm, I was like, yeah, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where I've been told I should be.
They were fun vampires, weren't they?
Yes.
Couldn't be more true. Could not be more true. Absolutely.
Yes.
So once I finally let that go and understand, you know what? It's cool that I'm out on the road and I have a reputation for being stuck in my hotel, almost showing up to class late because I'm still playing on my portable PlayStation. Yeah, I'm guilty. And I love it. I'm the guy in Tokyo that's waiting to go into the studio, and they've gotten me there so early. I'm gonna go play some video golf because we don't get that at home. So yeah, you're gonna have to pull me off of there to come to the class and start teaching. I love that and I live it, and I couldn't project that anymore to people on a regular, on a daily. This has been the crucible of everything that I bring to the table. It's literally the anchor of my career. So I try to get that across to people as much as I can, and literally don't fall for the trap.
Yes, I saw it. This is a wonderful moment to close the workshop. For me, it's the three letters is joy. And it's the same. If I am not enjoying it, I literally say no to a project, even if the consequence is I don't know where my money is coming from now. And I had that very often. But I never, ever regretted my big no's to big projects that would give me the big paycheck or the big reputation. I never, looking back, regret that I did that. So as I emphasize, and I think Kirk, you and Alex also, we all go for joy. Even if it says we stand in the comfort zone or not in the comfort zone anymore. And it's a brave step to do it all the time, to stand up for yourself. Thank you so much, guys, to London.
Thank
Alex,
you.
Delamare. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you so much for getting up early. And you have a second breakfast, I think.
Yes. Yes.
What is it in Lisbon? How late is it in Lisbon right now?
6:20 in the evening, so it's about barbecue dinner time.
Okay, and Alex, where are you going? Are you going to a workshop? Or are you having a soulful rest?
No, I've got a salsa class coming up in about an hour.
No, you're
That's
kidding.
what I talk about.
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking
about. Thank you so much, dear audience. This was New Generation Women, and I was Janine Fanzino. Thank you so much. Hopefully see you soon again, and have a soulful rest of your day with lots of fun and joy and salsa dancing wherever you are. Bye-bye. Until soon.